You know the thrill of picking a winner. But instead of just running to the window for a quick payout, I play smarter. I invest with Morningline. Morningline is a more sophisticated way to use your skill and bankroll without putting it all at risk. Own a piece of the horse with a piece of each purse. Buy, sell, trade, anytime. Keep the action rolling without burning your bankroll. This is playing the ponies, elevated like a boss. Morningline. Own the game.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the race right before the main event on Pegasus World Cup Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Race 12 is the other Grade 1, the Pegasus World Cup Turf, going the same distance, 9 furlongs. This one, of course, on the grass course at Gulfstream Park. Mike and I will get into the field in just a little bit, but first I want to let you know this video is sponsored by Morningline. Morningline is a private SEC-regulated marketplace where approved participants can trade licensed interest in racing's biggest stars like Torpedo Anna and Kentucky Derby hopeful Blackout Time. Be part of championship bloodlines. Visit morningline.io. Buy, sell, trade, own the game. And with Pegasus World Cup Day coming up this Saturday, make sure to get your PPs early because there is a lot of work to be done on this 13-race card, just full fields throughout the day. So make sure to go over to shop.drf.com to get your Pegasus World Cup Day PPs. And also tune into the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel when you're handicapping Pegasus World Cup Day, because we're going to have previews of all 8 stakes races. And on Wednesday night, we'll be going live. Gino Bacola and myself will be going live to handicap Pegasus World Cup Day, taking your questions live, using the past performances to do a deep dive into these races. So make sure to tune into that on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Mike, let's go through the field for this Pegasus World Cup Turf. As you can see on screen, 12 in the main body, 1 also eligible. Balnikov will only participate if there is 1 scratch, maybe even not then because he's cross-entered in a different race. But among the main body of the field, Mike, I think there is a clear horse to beat in here. The number 2, Program Trading, who's dropping out of a Breeders' Cup race last time out. And while he was winless last season, it was an abbreviated season where he did pretty much get back into form. And he's a horse that was a Grade 1 winner in years past. If he is still the same horse now as a 6-year-old, he's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He was a 3-time Grade 1 winner, in fact. In the past, there's a long layoff involved here. But you're right, David. I mean, he came back and he actually... It seemed like he got back into form pretty quickly last year in some really, really tough races. And I think if nothing else, it's fair to say this race isn't nearly as tough as any of the 3 that he ran in last year.
Let's go right into the Timeform US pace projector for this race, because I think pace is something that we really need to discuss. It's a 12-horse field. You just kind of expect pace to develop when there's a lot of runners in the starting gate. But as I went through this field, Mike, I didn't see a ton of speed in here. You know the number 8 Cabo Spirit's going to go out to the front. Those are the tactics that have been successful with him. Mike Smith takes nothing away from speed horses. He's going to be leading this field, but I'm not exactly sure who's going to be pressing him or if he's going to get much pressure at all, because 1 Stripe is a horse that they probably want to rate. The number 11 Astronomer, he's a horse that has tactical speed, but not exactly one that's going to be looking for the front end. So I feel like Cabo Spirit's going to be able to set his own pace, and we'll see how fast he has to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't see a ton of pace in this race at all. I think Cabo Spirit is the horse who's going to wind up on the lead in this race. The pace projector has 1 Stripe up there, but I don't, to me, he's not really a speed. I mean, they sent him off to the lead in the Breeders' Cup Mile just because he was $1,000,000 to 1 in there. And they were just taking a shot, but he hasn't been a speed horse throughout his career. I mean, to me, this pace projector, if nothing else, David, I think it's also great news for the favorite Program Trading. He is not a slow horse. He's got a great post position here. He could fall into a perfect trip in this race.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Test Score in a race that's full of 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I think 8 of the 13 runners are 6 years old and older. He's kind of the youngster in the group as a newly turned 4-year-old. And Mike, this is a horse that did a lot of racing during his 3-year-old season last year, was the winner of the Grade 1 Belmont Derby. I think it still remains to be seen how those 3-year-olds are going to stack up against the older horses, because it didn't feel like the strongest crop of 3-year-old turf horses. And he was definitely among the best of them, even though he's coming off a loss last time out in the Grade 1 21 Hollywood Derby. He arguably ran one of his better races. We'll take a look at the replay of this race because I think you agree with me, Mike. The winner of this race, Salamis, he's a pretty nice horse. And you could argue that test score maybe should have been right there with him on the line, because you'll see right about here, Juan Hernandez just runs out of room with him. He's got to wait for about a 16th of a mile to find a hole. He eventually comes through between horses at the end. He arguably could have won this race. Still, though, Mike, he's going to have to take a speed thinker step forward, step up against some tougher company, but he's another one that's drawn well with some tactical speed.
Yeah, all those things are true. I mean, yeah, generally speaking, I care less about speed figures than most people overall anyway, but especially with turf horses like him, who I just feel like he's proven that he's a talented horse. And what I really like about him, I think you and I talked about a lot of his races last year, and one of the things that I think we kept harping on is he's a really strong finisher, but he's a really strong finisher not from way back off the pace. He's a really strong finisher from up close to the pace. That's a really potent combination. I think this horse is pretty good. I know he doesn't have figures on paper that are that flashy. I think he's talented. He shows up every time. This is a great post position for him. This is a great distance for him. I think he's a major player in this race.
The number 2 Program Trading, he's going to be the favorite. And Mike, I think he deserves to be a pretty significant favorite in this race, because you go through this field, you said it earlier, it's not the strongest grade 1 turf affair, and this is a legitimate grade 1 horse. You talked about his merits from earlier in his career. Recently, he's come off a long layoff, and while he didn't win any of those races, he ran well in the Baruch. He just missed in the Turf Mile against a really nice field at Keeneland. And then last down in the Breeders' Cup Mile, Mike, I don't think he was going to win the race, but he was following the winner into the stretch, and notable speed, stuck to the inside, found a hole through. Flavien Prat just made a split-second decision that turned out to be the wrong one to try to move outside. He ran right at the back of tiring runners, had to lose all of momentum. He would have finished better than 10th in that race, but still, I mean, he was so consistent prior to that. He always shows up. He gets the right kind of trip. He's just far and away the most likely winner.
Yeah, it's just a great spot for this horse. That's really all I can say about it. When he came back off, listen, the first race last year at Saratoga was off a long laugh. He ran fine in there. I didn't think he was as close to winning the Keeneland race, maybe, as it looks on paper. That's just my opinion. I didn't think that he ran great in that race. I just thought he ran fine in that race. But it's still a better field than this one. And then he had the trouble that you mentioned at the Breeders' Cup. He's way the horse to beat in here. It's just a question of whether you feel like you can find an alternative at a fair price.
And one more point to make briefly with him. I remember the quotes that Chad Brown was giving prior to bringing him back last year, saying, I don't think he's a miler, but I have to run the mile races because that's all that's left at this point in the year. He wants him to go longer. He gets to go 9 furlongs here. The number 3, Beach Gold. This is a horse that upset a pretty decent stakes field at Ellis Park going back to the middle of the summer in August, sneaking up the inside under a very good trip orchestrated by Keith Asmussen that day. Since then, Mike, he has not visited the winner's circle in 3 attempts against graded stakes company. He ran okay in that mid-millions at Kentucky Downs because he was pressing a pretty honest pace that day. Did not like his turf mile at Keeneland at all. He got a similar trip to Program Trading and had nothing to offer late. I'm curious to know what you make of the Fort Lauderdale last time, because he didn't get to save a whole lot of ground in that race. And I initially wanted to upgrade him out of there, but looking back, I'm just not sure how strong that race was overall behind the winner.
I don't love that race either. And I'm with you. He was always on the outside. The 1-2 finishers, obviously just sort of rode the rail the entire way. This horse was outside, but I don't know. I still didn't feel like he ran some kind of race where I watched it back and felt like he was super unlucky in there. I mean, to me, he just barely got up for third. His prior races are fine, but they don't make me, like him in here. He's just one of the horses that I just thought had to take a pretty big step forward.
The number 4, One Stripe. He has another horse that ran in the Breeders' Cup Mile, like Program Trading. I think he was actually the horse that backed up right into the face of Program Trading at the top of the stretch after they tried to show speed that day. They worked out different tactics for him last time out when he got a class drop in an allowance race at Gulfstream Park. We'll take a look at the replay of the stretch run here. And Mike, this was a pretty powerful performance. I know there was nothing behind him here. He was not beating the field that nearly stacks up against this one, but you have to like the visual of this race, the way he just marched up 3 wide on the far turn and just spurts away from this field in the stretch, winning with a very fast time. Kind of interesting that Graham Motion is now, and the connections, I should say, are giving the ride back to Gavin Lorena, who rode this horse when he was based in South Africa, and kind of a redemption ride for him, because this horse got into some trouble with the last time this jockey was aboard him, his final start in South Africa. So we'll see if he can get a redeeming victory here. This horse that came over with a reputation, some potential, maybe he finally showed he's figuring out North American racing last time.
Maybe he did. Yeah, he looked like he was pretty talented over there. And then they got over here, his first 2 starts off the layoff are major grade 1 races, and he just wasn't really up for that. I really liked his win last time. I know it was a significant step back in class, but I really liked the visual of that race. I'm not that surprised that they're going to step him back up in class here. This race, another grade one, not nearly as tough as the last two.
There are several California shippers in this race. One of those is the number 5, El Mendaris, a horse who doesn't visit the winner's circle that often, but he's been knocking on the door in some graded stakes out west. Mike, I just watched his recent replays. I think he's got decent trips in a few of them, just can't quite push past a few of the rivals that'll meet again here. So of the SoCal shippers, I thought he was tough to make a case for.
Me too. I just think he's okay. I know he's got a couple of races on his card, a couple of figures anyway, that are going to make him really tough in here if he can run them. I just don't trust him to do it.
The number 6, Call Sign 7, he actually beat the horse we just talked about last time out in the Seabiscuit handicap at Del Mar. We'll take a look at the stretch run of this race, and but boy, Mike, it would have been a shame if Ricky Gonzalez had not been able to get through with this horse, because you could see on the top of the stretch, he has a ton of run underneath him behind a wall of horses, nowhere to go. He decides to take his chances to staying down towards the inside, and miraculously this hole opens up, and he's able to shoot on through to win at a whopping 68-1. The bettors just totally let this horse go off the layoff. This was a big kick that he puts in, but he did save all the ground. He got paced to close into. He was a huge price last time. He's going to be a big price again, probably not 68-1. No. Not sure he's going to be able to make it 2 in a row against this field.
Yeah, pretty clear that the trip had everything to do with his win last. I mean, that's, the stuff that you can do, though. Good job by the rider, but that's what you get to do when you're 100-1. You can just sit at the back and save ground and hope that it works out for you. It worked out for him.
The number 7, Major Dude. He is a horse that's competed in this race in the past, was 6th in the Pegasus World Cup turf last year. Since then, I mean, Mike, he lost a string of races, finally got back to the winner's circle last time, beating a much weaker fielded Aqueduct, going a mile in the Artie Schiller. I can make some recent excuses for this horse because he's just never run well at Kentucky Downs, and I don't care too much about the race 2 back, and he was trying to go a mile and 3/8 2 back. That's probably a 3 back, I should say. That's probably too far for him. I still wonder if he's really as good as he was maybe a year or 18 months ago, and I think he's going to need to beat a rival like Program Trading, but I'm not going to be surprised when he's somewhere in the mix at the end.
Yeah, I think what you like most about him, or at least what I like most about him, is he still can run. He's really consistent, and he's just so tactical. I mean, you can give him any kind of a trip in a race, and he will show up and give you his A effort. He's a really cool horse. I'm with you. I'm not so sure that he's quite as good as he used to be in years past, but he's been a good horse for a really long time, and there could be a good trip coming for him in here.
Mike, when I was first handicapping this race, I kind of skipped past all of the Southern California horses, including Cabo Spirit, just thinking they probably weren't good enough. Yeah. But boy, when I was watching this replay of the San Gabriel again, and we'll watch it here, I was pretty impressed because this horse did not get an easy lead. He had to work to make the front. Another horse was sending in there. They kind of ran away from the field. They got so spread out around that clubhouse turn onto the backstretch, and he had a right to get tired after that, but he's able to kick on again in the stretch here once Astronomer comes to him and hold him off, as well as all of the other closers. This horse is in a really good form right now. And as I start to go back to the running lines, I mean, he's only been beaten by the likes of Formidable Man and Johannes. Those are horses that would be major players if they were in a race like this. And let's remember that pace projector. He's probably going to be the lone speed in this race, setting his own pace. I'm not going to be surprised when he takes them a long way up front.
I agree with all that stuff. And I would also just point out that the poor effort 2 starts back when he was beaten by Call Sign 7 there. I don't know what the plan was there for Mispley, but he did not give this horse the right ride that day, and it really blew up in his face. I really appreciate the form that they've gotten this horse back into now as a 6-year-old last year, and now into a 7-year-old year. I remember him being really good. I really liked this horse as a 3-year-old, and then for whatever reason, he sort of lost his way for a while. They've gotten this horse good again, and I think he's a very dangerous horse in here.
The number 9, Chasing the Crown. He was actually the 3rd place finisher at a huge price in the Pegasus World Cup turf last season. We haven't seen him that much since then. Only 3 starts in 2025. Did win off the layoff with a 100 buyer, but that was at Kentucky Downs. I don't think Mike especially is going to put too much stock into that race. And his 2 efforts since then, they've been a little bit lackluster. He was a little bit wide in the Fort Lauderdale last time, but never really looked like he was doing a whole lot of running in that race. Just not sure that he's quite as sharp now as he was a year ago, Mike.
Yeah, and I don't know that I really want to judge him off the back-to-back triple-digit buyers there in those races separated by the layoff. Obviously, in this race last year, he got a piece of it at a really, really big price, but there were trips all over the place in that race, and I just feel like maybe he took advantage a little bit in there. The other one was at Kentucky Downs, so I take it with a grain of salt. I just had a really tough time warming up to this horse. Really dangerous trainer, so maybe he'll show up and run his good race here, but I had a tough time warming up to him.
Number 10, Cugino is the second choice on the morning line. And I kind of get it. He had a pretty productive 2025 season, winning 3 of 5 starts. Not quite at this level, but he did run well in his final prep for this race. That was the Fort Lauderdale that we keep referencing. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, I mean, I guess this highlights the fact that Wolfie's Dynagos is absent from this Pegasus World Cup turf. He was the winner of the prep. The Fort Lauderdale was in great form, would have been one of the favorites, if not the favorite in this Pegasus World Cup turf. And he's not going to play. And Cugino was the one that finished closest to him at the end, though Cugino got a really good trip just sitting in the pocket, and he tipped out at the top of the stretch. I kind of felt like he had a real chance to get by the leader and could never really get on terms with that foe. He is a horse that's gotten good trips in a number of races over the past year, kind of dichotomous to the way his early career went as a 3-year-old, where he just got bad trip after bad trip. That's turned around recently, and that worries me a little bit because now he's drawn outside in post 10, and I wonder if he's going to have to cover more ground here.
That was my main takeaway too. I mean, this horse, he gets nothing but good trips in his races over the last year or so. And you know what? When he's in against the right fields, obviously he's able to take advantage of it. And when he's in against some better horses, as was the case last time, he's just not quite good enough. I respect this horse. I think he's pretty talented, and I think he matches up pretty well with most of this field in here. I just feel like as one of the favorites, I was more interested in some other horses.
The number 11 Astronomer, another one of these Southern California shippers. He's been beaten by horses that we already talked about, like Call Sign 7 and Cabo Spirit. He was finishing second to the latter of those in the San Gabriel replay that we showed a little bit earlier. But Mike, kind of shows the real negative attribute for this horse is that he just has some hang in him. And he had a chance to get to Cabo Spirit last time, could just never get on terms despite getting a great trip in that race. And now he's stuck out in post 11, probably not going to save as much ground. He's a little tough to make a case for.
Yeah, he's just one of those horses who never wins, and it's hard to make excuses for his losses. I mean, I think we're going all the way back to the summer of 2023, the last time he won a race. And you start going through his replays. I mean, you're not going to find a bunch of excuses for him not to get there.
Rounding out the main body of the field on the outside is the number 12 Fort Washington. This is a horse that did try the Pegasus World Cup turf last year. And Mike, I'm sure you remember he ran a sneaky good 5th in that race because he had a really tough trip going wide on the turn, was still able to only lose that race by just over 2 lengths. And since then, Mike, he kind of put things together. I mean, he won 3 of his next 4 starts, lost last time out at Kentucky Downs, but again, that was going too far and a race over a track that he didn't have to handle. I do wonder what's going on with the layoff since then, because it's a little weird to come into a race like this off a break, but he was competing pretty consistently from 2024 right on through 2025. So maybe he needed a break. He's good enough to win this race based on talent. I wonder what kind of trip you envision for him.
I mean, it's going to be, listen, you laid out the way that he ran in this race last year, and it was a deceptively good performance with a tough trip when he broke from post 12 of 12. And he's got post 12 of 12. Again, it's really unfortunate because this horse ran great in this race last year, and I just loved the form that he kept throughout the rest of the year. I thought this horse ran one good race after another last year. We'll see what kind of trip he can work out. It's going to be obviously really important for him, but it also feels like he's probably going to be a fair price in here. And if Junior can work out anything for this horse, I think he can be really competitive in here. So I'm going to, stay positive on this horse, even with a terrible post position again.
Let's go to our picks for this Pegasus World Cup turf. And Mike, I see you're going to land on the horse we were just talking about, and I totally get it. I think you make some really good points about the form that Fort Washington was in last year, how well he ran in this race. I'm a little hung up on the pace maybe not working for him, but you're probably right. He's going to be a fair price in here.
Yeah, that's why I put him on top. The 2, we've already talked about it. He's way the horse to beat. I think he's actually a very likely winner in this race. I'm going to take a small shot with Fort Washington and just hope that things work out for him in here, especially if he's, around that 10-1 morning line. I'll play a lot at 212 though.
Yeah, I kind of copped out putting program trading on top. I just think he's better than these horses. And like you said, he's probably going to get the right trip in this race. I did consider the number 8 Cabo Spirit, and if he drips out to somewhere in the 10-1 range, I'll probably put a win wager on him. But I do think that program trading is a horse that you probably want to use in here. 2-8-1-4 for me and 12-2-1-10 for Mike in the penultimate race on Pegasus World Cup Saturday, the Pegasus World Cup turf. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.